The harder you chase money, the faster it runs from you. And that is not some feel-good spiritual cliché. It is the fundamental law that governs every dollar in your life. Alan Watts understood this decades ago, and the wealthy have been quietly using this principle ever since. You have been programmed to believe that wanting money harder, hustling longer, and grinding more is the answer. But what if that exact programming is the virus keeping you broke? Desire repels wealth. In the next few minutes, you are going to understand why everything you have been taught about pursuing money is backwards. Why the people who seem to attract it effortlessly are not lucky. They simply stop doing the one thing you cannot stop doing. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. As Alan Watts once put it, the more you pursue the feeling of something, the less you are able to have it. This is not poetry. This is physics applied to psychology. When you desperately want money, your entire nervous system shifts into a state of lack. Your brain literally broadcasts scarcity. Every decision you make comes from a place of not having enough, and here is what nobody tells you. That energy of desperation is visible to everyone around you. Your boss sees it, your clients feel it, investors smell it. Think about the last time someone tried to sell you something and you could feel their neediness. Did you buy? Of course not. You pulled away, you repelled. That is exactly what happens when you chase money with white knuckles and a racing heart. You become a repellent disguised as a magnet. The trap is not that you want money. Everyone wants money. The trap is that your wanting has become your identity. You have merged with the desire itself, and in doing so, you have become the cage. But this leads us to something Alan Watts called the backwards law, and it changes everything. Alan Watts spent his entire life studying Eastern philosophy, and he kept arriving at the same paradox. Wanting creates lacking. The very act of wanting something confirms to your subconscious mind that you do not have it. Read that again. When you say, "I want to be rich," your brain hears, "I am not rich," and it goes to work proving that belief true. This is not mysticism. Neuroscience calls it the reticular activating system. Your brain filters reality based on your dominant beliefs, and when your dominant belief is "I need more money," your brain filters for evidence of scarcity everywhere. As Watts wisely observed, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. The backwards law states that the more you pursue a feeling, the more you reinforce the opposite feeling. The harder you try to be confident, the more you notice your insecurity. The harder you chase happiness, the more you catalog your misery. And the harder you chase money, poverty, you magnetize the exact thing you are running from. If this principle is hitting close to home right now, hit like and subscribe to reprogram more of these money blocks, because the next one might be the belief that is costing you the most. And speaking of beliefs, what if the problem goes even deeper than wanting? Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Most people do not actually want money. They want what they think money will give them: security, freedom, respect, love. They are chasing a symbol while ignoring the substance. Alan Watts compared this to eating a menu instead of the meal. In his words, money is an abstraction. It is a symbol of wealth, not wealth itself. And when you chase a symbol, you enter an endless loop, because symbols can never satisfy. You get the raise and immediately want more. You hit the number and move the goalpost. You buy the car and start eyeing the next one. Never enough, always empty. This is not a character flaw. This is what happens when you confuse the map for the territory. The wealthy understand something the rest do not. Money is a tool. It is a consequence. It is a byproduct. It is never the goal itself. When you make money the goal, you are telling the universe you are empty without it. And the universe has a cruel sense of humor. It will keep you empty just to prove you right. But this leads us to the real question. If chasing is wrong, what exactly should you be doing instead? Alan Watts told a story about trying to make yourself go to sleep. The harder you try, the more awake you become. You cannot force the one thing that requires surrender. Sleep comes when you stop trying to sleep. Confidence comes when you stop performing confidence. And wealth comes when you stop desperately trying to be wealthy. Now, before you misunderstand, this is not about sitting on your couch and waiting for checks to appear. This is about the energy behind your actions. Effort without desperation. There is a massive difference between working hard from a place of purpose and working hard from a place of panic. The first creates value. The second burns you out and produces nothing. As Watts explained perfectly, when you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. Watch any truly successful person work. They are not grinding their teeth. They are not white-knuckling their way through the day. They move with a strange calm. They work hard, yes, incredibly hard, but there is no desperation in their effort. There is only focus. There is only presence. The paradox of effort is that it works best when it does not need to. And what enables this kind of calm effort? That brings us to something even more fundamental. Your ego is a hungry ghost. It can never be fed. Never. Alan Watts described the ego as a hallucination, a constructed sense of self that lives entirely in the past and future, never in the present. And this hallucination has one primary function: to want. The ego survives by constantly needing what it does not have. When you identify with your ego, you identify with lack. Every desire becomes evidence of your incompleteness. I need this car to feel worthy. I need this salary to feel successful. I need this house to feel safe. You become a bottomless pit wearing a human costume. The ego tricks you into believing that the next purchase, the next promotion, the next zero in your bank account will finally make you whole. But it never does, because the ego does not actually want fulfillment. As Watts described it, the ego is a monkey catapulting through the jungle, grabbing one vine after another. The wealthy who remain miserable are proof of this. They fed the ego everything it asked for and still feel empty. Meanwhile, the truly abundant are the ones who saw through the illusion. They stopped letting a hallucination run their financial lives. See through the lie. And once you see through the ego, something remarkable begins to happen with how you relate to money. Here is the shift that separates the wealthy from the wanting. Abundance is not something you acquire, it is something you recognize. Alan Watts taught that the universe is not a collection of separate things fighting for limited resources. It is one interconnected process. And you are not in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. In his words, you are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. When you internalize this, scarcity becomes logically impossible. How can you lack something when you are part of everything? This is not abstract philosophy. This is a practical mental shift with real financial consequences. When you operate from internal abundance, your decisions change immediately. You stop accepting underpaid work out of fear. You stop clinging to toxic partnerships because you are afraid of being alone. You stop hoarding because you trust that more is coming. You begin to make choices from wholeness instead of holes, and people respond to that energy. Opportunities respond to that energy. Money responds to that energy, not because of some mystical attraction, but because confidence creates value, and value is what money actually follows. But there is a specific state of being where this value creation peaks, and it is something Alan Watts understood perfectly. There is a state psychologists call flow, athletes call it the zone. Alan Watts called it the watercourse way, as he reminded us, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. In this state, you are not chasing results. You are not anxious about outcomes. You are fully immersed in the process. Time disappears. Self-consciousness vanishes. And paradoxically, this is when you produce your most valuable work. Studies from the Flow Research Collective show that people in flow states are 500% more productive. 500, not 5%, 500. Your highest earning potential exists in the state where you forget about earnings entirely. Think about the greatest artists, inventors, and entrepreneurs in history. They were not staring at spreadsheets while creating their masterpieces. They were lost in the work. They were dancing with the process. The money came afterward. It always comes afterward. Process over profit. But most people have this reversed. They focus on the money and wonder why the work suffers. They watch the scoreboard instead of playing the game, and the scoreboard never moves for someone who is watching it instead of playing. This brings us to one of Alan Watts's most powerful metaphors about trust. Alan Watts often used the metaphor of a river. You do not force a river, it flows on its own. And yet that is exactly what most people try to do with their financial lives. They build dams, they dig channels, they try to redirect the entire current through sheer willpower. And then they wonder why they are exhausted and the river is barely a trickle. Stop fighting the current. Trusting the river does not mean being passive. It means reading the current. It means positioning yourself where the water naturally flows. It means understanding that the river knows things you do not. In practical terms, this looks like following your genuine interests instead of chasing whatever industry pays the most. It looks like developing skills you naturally excel at instead of forcing yourself into roles that drain you. 1. Follow genuine curiosity, not just paychecks. 2. Develop natural strengths, not forced competencies. 3. Position yourself in value streams, not dead ends. 4. Trust timing while taking consistent action. As Watts put it so simply, the meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. When you align with your natural current, effort feels different. It stops being a grind and starts being a practice. And practices compound. They build momentum. They create something money cannot help but follow. But there is a crucial distinction most people miss about this kind of letting go. Let me be very clear about something, because this is where people get it wrong. Detachment is not indifference. Letting go is not giving up. Alan Watts never said stop caring about money. He said stop strangling it. There is a razor-thin line between healthy detachment and reckless avoidance, and if you cross it, you end up broke and spiritual instead of abundant and free. Detach, not abandon. Detachment means you care about money as a tool without being enslaved by it as an identity. It means you pursue wealth with open hands instead of clenched fists. It means you can lose everything tomorrow and still know exactly who you are. From clenched fists to open hands to radiance. In the words of Watts himself, the art of living is neither careless drifting on the one hand, nor fearful clinging on the other. This is the middle path. This is where true wealth lies, not in the desperate grasping of the anxious, and not in the false renunciation of the afraid, but right in the center, where you can hold money without it holding you. Master this balance and money stops being your enemy and becomes your ally. And this leads us to the final piece, the real transformation that makes all of this click. You have spent your entire life trying to get money. Stop. Stop trying to get money and start becoming the person money flows to. This is not wordplay. This is the fundamental reorientation that Alan Watts was pointing to all along. Be, do, have. Most people think the formula is have money, then do what you want, then be happy. But the actual formula is reversed. Be the person first. Do the work from that state of being, and having follows naturally. As Watts once said, you do not look at where you want to go, you look at where you are going. When you embody abundance, you do not chase opportunities, they present themselves. When you embody value, you do not beg for compensation, it finds you. When you embody calm confidence, you do not negotiate from weakness, you attract from strength. The shift from chasing to attracting changes everything in your financial life. This is not about pretending to be rich. This is about genuinely shifting your internal relationship with wealth so profoundly that your external reality has no choice but to rearrange. You stop being the person who runs after money and become the person money runs toward. That is the secret Alan Watts tried to tell us. Your desire for money repels it. Your embodiment of value attracts it. And here is the uncomfortable truth you need to sit with tonight. Every morning you wake up wanting money, you push it further away. Every time you check your bank account with anxiety, you reinforce the scarcity. Every moment you spend envying someone else's wealth, you tell your own brain that wealth is not for you. Reprogram your money mind. Alan Watts did not teach us to reject money. He taught us to reject the desperate, grasping, ego-driven pursuit that poisons everything it touches. He showed us that the universe operates on a paradox. The tighter you hold, the less you keep. The more you release, the more returns. As he told us so beautifully, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. So here is your challenge. Tomorrow morning, instead of waking up and thinking about what you need, wake up and focus on what you can give. Instead of counting what you lack, count what you are. Instead of chasing money, become the person money chases. If you made it this far, comment open hands if you are ready to stop strangling your wealth and start letting it flow. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it.